how to measure the success of new product launch. Guys, one of the most dangerous things you could ever do is launch a product, have success, but not know how to measure it. It usually signifies the beginning of the end of an entrepreneur, and I don't want you to go through that. Here's how to measure your product launch success. Let's dive in. All right, now the first time, I know that intro is intense, but it's the reality. The first time I ever went and launched a product online, I didn't know what I was doing. It was the first time I ever spent money to launch a product online. And it was in college, and I spent $50 in ads. And what had happened is it was the semester where I was so excited because I was going to a class called Internet Marketing. And I ended up leaving it on day 2 because I was so bored. And I went to the professor and I said, hey, I don't want to be here anymore. And I drew a funnel. I didn't know what a sales funnel was, I didn't know that's what I was drawing. I drew a funnel and I said, hey, I want to do this instead of your class. Shockingly, he said, go for it. And I never came back to class except the last day to show him what I learned. I grabbed the other guy that looked like he was bored out of his mind, and we held our own class every day for 3 months. And we worked hard to try and make as much money as possible. That's what our class became. How do we make as much money online as possible? It was super fun. So I spent tons of time putting together this product, putting together this funnel as for an affiliate product. And we went and we launched the thing, we got it out there, and I spent $50 in ads, and I woke up the next morning to $50 back in my account. And I was like, oh crap. We spent $50 in ads and we only made $50 back. Total failure. And we abandoned the project. Bad. No. Okay. What we did not understand was that 17 people had joined my list. 17 people joined my list. We broke even and people joined my email list. That's some massive power. And what I did not understand was that one of the first ways you measure the success of a launch is by how many people joined your list. You have to understand that the list, especially online, is the real asset of your business, not your product. Why does Google acquire a small startup company? Why do they do that? They could just clone the person's software. That's not why their thing is valuable. Most of the time, the reason why Google buys a small little incubator has little to do with the software. I mean, sometimes, but most of the time it's because of the list. They just bought a customer list because that's what came with the business. Okay, lists are power. Lists are the real asset. How come Warren Buffett can speak and the whole market shifts, right? That's a big deal to understand. Followers, lists, right? Getting people to come and listen to what you say, that is a lot of power. And so what you're trying to do is, yes, while you sell your product, you're trying to make money, obviously. But one of the ways that you know if you're actually being successful and moving towards greater success in the future is by how many people are joining your list per day. So you might have just gone through a product launch. You don't know how to measure whether or not it's actually worked. But the reality is, if you can measure how many people join your list every day versus how many are leaving each day, that's one of the greatest measures of success. So I'll tell you right now, as I'm doing this video with you, we get 50 to 100 people joining my list every day, almost totally organic. And then I get about 20 to 30 leaving per day. So I'm netting a good amount, a healthy amount. I can't do math on camera in front of you right now, all right? Okay, but what's interesting about that is because of this next metric here, okay? If you're bad, you tend to make $1 per person per month on your list. So easy formula, get more people on your list, you make more money. And that's quite literally how we do that. And that's not my metric. That's a very commonly known thing inside our industry if you're brand new to this game, okay? $1 per person per month on the list. And as you get more experience, maybe it's $2 per person per month on your list. And so it's like, how do we make a business out of this? Just get more people. We have a lot of people on our list, a lot of people on my email list. And so if I'm bad, right, then I'll make $1 per person. So that's the reason why. So was my product launch successful? How many people joined your list? And if nobody did, honestly, and you made a lot of money, that's a really freaky situation to be in, and you may not even know it, okay? It's the scariest thing ever. Such little future security happens if you launched, made a lot of money, but you weren't capturing an email list or followers somewhere, okay? So you want future security in this? Build a list. It's all about the list. Let's move on to the second way to know if you've actually been successful. Russell and I were building this funnel. It was when I was working at ClickFunnels. We were building a sales funnel for a client, and this happened multiple times. But I have a specific example in mind. We were building this funnel. We go and we delivered it. We turn on Facebook ads for it, and they got ticked. I mean, man, they were mad. And they're mad because they're spending $1 in advertising, and they're getting back like $1.15. Okay, so think about that. Putting in $1 in ads, and they'd only the amount of people that come and buy to equal $1.15 back. So they're netting 15 cents per transaction. And they got on the phone with Russell, and right there, it was like, they were mad. Like, what the heck? You said this was gonna be this big, massive success. We went through this massive product launch. We flew our team out there. We did all these things. And Russell was like, whoa, wait a second. And then I remember replying and emailing to him as well. I was like, just so you know, you guys should be throwing a party. And they're like, what are you talking about? They're like, it's not this big, massive thing. We thought 15 cents is all we're netting per person? Holy smokes. We're like, no. You guys should be throwing a party. And they didn't understand the very simple way to measure success that I'm gonna teach you right here. Frankly, this is the secrets of millionaires online, okay? Breaking even is a $1 million scenario, okay? When you break even on a funnel, right, at least, or on a product launch, when you break even, you're in a powerful situation because you now have a list of buyers, not just opt-ins. And this list of buyers basically can go back to them and upsell them to anything that's coming up next. All right? So basically, when you have a break-even funnel, anything that they buy next is pure profit. And that's what they didn't understand. So they've had this little funnel. We built it for them, $1 in, $1.15 out. If they just built one more thing on top of it, they'd have been in pure profit land. Most of the rest of the corporate world expects to pay to purchase their customers, right? It's crazy. A lot of new entrepreneurs on the internet don't expect that. So you should though, okay? You're gonna buy your customers somehow. You're either gonna buy them with your time or you're gonna buy them with your money. So you purchase them somehow. So the way we do it online is we will create a break-even funnel on purpose to just get a list of buyers. Let's separate those who actually pull out their wallet from those who will not pull out their wallet. Now let's go send an upsell to those who pulled their wallet out, and it's pure profit. That's how so many of us make so much money on the internet, with a lot of profit. That's the big secret. So there's two numbers that we look at to measure that whole activity, and I kind of talked about it already. Let's say that you come in and somebody starts buying from something in a sales funnel, or they buy something from your product launch, and they spend an average of $100 when they're buying from you. And so we call that the average cart value. On average, people are spending $100 when they come and they purchase from you. But let's say that your cost per acquisition, how much did you spend to acquire the buyer, is also $100. Failure? It is if you don't ask the question that I started this whole video with, how many people joined your list? So that's the big key metric right there, okay? Average cart value versus cost to acquire. Those are the only two numbers that we ask. We've had several, I'm not gonna bring up any names on this one, all right? There's some big CPAs that will come back and be like, you should get rid of these products because we never make any money on them. And you're like, yes, but you don't understand, that liquidates our marketing activity. Totally breaks even, and everything that we do afterward, pure profit, total pure profit. And anyway, so don't listen to your accountants on marketing advice. Okay, it's all about breaking even on that front end. If you can make money, then totally do it. I'm not telling you to lose money on purpose, okay? But that's just the bar, that's the goal, because break even is $1 million scenario. Before I jump into one of the tactics that will scale your launches, go ahead and hit the like and the subscribe button. I would love to know what you think about this. And I also want to know in the comments below, how did your last product launch go? I'd love to see that and celebrate it with you. One of my mentors was at a mastermind and he was sitting there and he was saying to himself, I really wish I could give myself a raise. And he was sitting in the mastermind and he got up on stage and they all started nitpicking at his business. He was selling something that was really kind of high ticket. And they're like, what's your product line? And he goes, well, they start out buying something kind of cheap, and then we'll sell them something that's like kind of a little more expensive. Later on, we'll ask them, hey, do you want something that's a little more expensive? And then people are like, I really want your time. And then they'll expect to spend even more. And I really want a mastermind. And then I really want more. And he was like, I'm trying to figure out though how I get to that next level. And somebody asked him, well, what do you sell them next? And he's like, nothing. Like that's my whole line right there. Very, very powerful lesson came from that. And he was told, hey, people will stop buying from you if you A, offend them, or B, stop selling to them. Those are the only two scenarios people stop buying from you. But Steve, I've already sold to my people. In fact, I've already done what you said. I've done the break-even funnel. I've done the next next monetization funnel where we make a lot more money. The answer is to just do it again. It's not complicated. But that's the big lesson though, is that people will stop buying from you if you A, offend them, or B, stop selling them. So one of the biggest ways to do this after your launch, and this is a big mess up after people launch their products. How do we measure the success of a product launch, right? We do it with lists. How big did your list get? Number two, we do it by asking, what was the average cart value versus cost per acquisition? And then number three, how do we measure? We measure to see what opportunities there are to upsell next. What's the next thing? I've already done the next thing. Okay, then the thing after that. There's a percentage of people who always will want to buy more from you. I call them the hypers. I call them the psychos. They're the crazies. They're the excited. They're the ones that are like, oh my gosh, I love Steve Larsen, right? That's just how it happens. That's it. Okay, there's 10% of my following. They're just like, and I'm the same way with a few others. I won't even read their sales letter. I just like, you got a new thing? I love you. Here's my credit card. And basically throw it at them, all right? You have to understand that there's going to be 10% of your buyers that are that way with you. And unless you give them another opportunity to buy from, they're not going to buy from you. And so one of the easiest ways to give yourself a raise is to just add the next product line inside of your tier of products. Hey, I got a free gift for you. If you're liking these strategies, some of these principles, go get the free PDF that will show you how to launch some things on the internet if you have money or if you don't, okay? If you're new and you don't really know what you're doing versus if you're experienced, the PDF will guide you through both situations. Get it for free at launchforprofit.com.